Hi guys, Cameron here, Freedom Solar and Batteries here on the Central Coast, New South Wales. Just a quick chat today about the ACCC report that was dropped in the last week or so. This was a report that was actually commissioned by the federal government to get them to look into why are we getting ripped off blind with our electricity bills. Why has the cost exploded in the last 5 years? Why are people going cold in winter and sweating in summer? Why are people afraid to use their appliances because of the cost? A lot of families. I just saw a friend of ours. She was posted. She got a bill for $980 for the electricity bill. Now she has a fair idea of why that happened. So they're going to turn off their extra fridges and things like that. So they're actually going to have to go around and turn off appliances. They don't have a lot of appliances, so they're absolutely getting ripped off blind. They live in a regional area, so there's probably a fair supply charge on that. But yeah, this is crazy, and it's about time that everybody just did something about it. One of the findings that the ACCC came up with, and they came up with many, and a lot of them very logical suggestions, made some very logical observations that we've all known about gold plating of networks and basically retailers price gouging and things like that. But they also made a suggestion which sort of has really raised attention within our industry, the renewable energy industry, about the SRES and the small scale renewable energy scheme, and they want it to end in 2021. That's only about 3 years away. Now they want to. This scheme is already scheduled to end in 2030. So it's actually already in the wind down. It's a 15-year wind down phase. Every year it just reduces in value every year just by a little bit until in 2030 it'll be worth nothing. At the same time, the cost of solar components also drops by a similar amount. So every year, every January 1, it drops a bit. Rebates reduce a little bit more, but the cost of solar reduces. So you don't see any spikes in cost of solar. It stays pretty constant and gradually reducing. They want to close that mechanism down in only 3 years' time, which means at that point, there's actually going to be about a 30% spike, 25 to 30%. At the moment, it's worth 30%. In 3 years' time, it's probably going to be about 25% spike in the cost of out-of-pocket solar for you. So at the moment, 5 kilowatt solar, let's say it's actually about 10.5 grand. There's a 3.5 grand STC rebate, which is part of the SRES, and that brings the out-of-pocket price for you at about $6,500 to $7,000. At a $6,500 to $7,000 investment, a couple of grand a year that system will save you within about 4 years. Let's say, be fair, say 4 to 5 years. That system will actually have paid for itself. It'll actually, in cash, have put that money back in your pocket, and then you'll have 20 years of saving a couple of grand a year for the rest of the life of that system. So, a 5 kilowatt system, there's some potential to save you about $40,000 over the life of the system back in your pocket after it's paid for itself. Pretty remarkable. I can't think of anything else you could do to your home that would give you that return, apart from capital growth in an explosive area, where the growth is through the roof. But to get capital growth, you've got to sell the property. So if this scheme ends, suddenly the $6,500 system becomes $10,000. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think you have to be fairly educated to know what that will do to the market. If you increase the price of a certain good by 30% overnight, then the next day you're not going to sell any of those goods. So what that means is there's going to be a stall in the investment in renewable energy, and this is the SRES involves systems that are up to 100 kilowatts. So we're talking about not just the residential systems of 5, 6, maybe 10 kilowatts. We're also talking about the small to medium enterprise businesses that could be putting a 95 kilowatt or 100 kilowatt system on their factory. It's going to stall that as well, because suddenly a 100 kilowatt system, the difference is about $70,000. So if suddenly they go from a system that they were looking at investing $140,000 in, and then the next day, sorry, I need $210,000 because that's actually the real cost, then it's going to be game over. So it's going to completely stall investment in renewable energy in Australia, all over Australia, for many years to come. Now, maybe I'm trying to be a bit protective of my own business. It's certainly going to stall our business, but it's going to stall everything that we've been working towards in the renewable energy sector. Australia has one of the biggest take-ups of solar energy in the world. Solar energy makes the biggest difference to CO2 emissions. Every kilowatt hour that you produce from solar power produces no tons of CO2. There's no CO2 produced when you produce energy on your solar panels compared to a coal-fired power station. So we've been making big inroads in that as an industry. This year is going to be another record year of solar power uptake. Last year was a record year. We're going to have record year and record year. Now, being involved in an industry like that, fantastic. That's great. If you're involved in an industry that has got rapid growth and we're breaking records every year, great thing. But to turn around and then basically shut down an industry, stall all growth, but not only is stalling growth, is stalling the uptake of the renewable energy in general in Australia. And suddenly all efforts to reduce CO2 stop. So what can we do about it? You can get onto your local member, scream like crazy, send them emails, send them letters, bang on their door. You can join the various action groups that you'll find on Facebook. They are getting together like as a group, so they're trying to, there's rather than one voice, they're 10,000 voices. Sign their petitions. Make sure that this rubbish doesn't happen. It is only a recommendation, and it might not necessarily be acted upon because there's so many other recommendations that can be acted upon. But some of these recommendations mean affecting the bigwigs in town, top end of town, so they get to price gouge less money out of you. So they can't charge as much. They don't make as much money. The billionaires, the multinational companies that own our power system that are owned by offshore companies. We know, but federally, that our current government doesn't like to upset those people, so that they'd rather take from the people than take from the rich. The general people, they'll take our rebate and not really care because everyone else's profit margin, all their friends, and let's be quite frank, they've all got money invested in the energy industry. They don't affect their own returns, but they crush an industry and get to build more coal-fired power stations. And that's also another thing. They did say that coal-fired power is quite cheap. But the pointer is, clarification is, coal-fired power from an existing power station that's been running for 25 years. To build a new coal-fired power station is ridiculously expensive and multiple times more cost than building an equivalent size solar farm or wind farm. So that's a clarification you've got to think about there. So yeah, think about that. Get online, join these groups on Facebook or these online groups. They're action groups. They're there to put pressure on government, put your name down with them, sign their petitions, make sure that this little bit doesn't happen. A lot of the other things can happen. They're great ideas, but this little bit, that's a clanger. It's a terrible idea because it's going to cost the consumer more money if they do this. And they're talking about like the SRS per year, per person. I think it's about $18 a year if they can. Yeah, that's about how much they reckon will save you, about $18 a year. So pretty ridiculous. So have a think about that. Hop online, join the groups, make your voice heard, ring your local member, tell them how you feel about this, and we'll see if people power can make a difference.